G'day. And how's it going? What do you know? It's Markee. Back at it again with another r/EntitledParents story. Now today, you're gonna get kicked out of university, cause I'm really angry at you. Entitled father tries to kick me out of university. My freshman year, I was roommates with a guy who had fairly well-off parents. Let's call him John. John was a child actor, and although he isn't one you'd recognize immediately, he's played side characters on some big sitcoms and did some voice acting on some pretty popular kids shows. His parents told him to have very high expectations and were very strict with him and his acting. So when he got into our university, which is considered a top 10 university globally, his parents held him to that same standard, which for a now liberated young adult with almost no maturity, he did the exact opposite of everything he should have done. He slept all day, partied all night, never studied, didn't go to class, etc. Yet when his parents would call up to check on him, I would always be mentioned in the conversations. They needed to make sure that I was a good influence on their son. That's what they would tell him. They would consistently ask if I was partying often, doing drugs, bringing girls over late into the night, pretty much everything he was doing. They wanted to ensure I wasn't doing it to keep their son safe. This goes on for months. Whenever his parents would call him during his midday nap and I'd be in between classes, I'd always hear him defending me to his parents, and he'd go beet red whenever I'd walk in and hear what they were saying about me over the phone. So I'd leave and wait until his call ended, since I'd already knew he'd felt embarrassed enough. I didn't really think of what they were saying either. I just thought it was ironic and told John afterwards that he didn't need to apologize, since they weren't his thoughts. Around the end of semester, John is told by his major department that he would likely flunk out of college if he did not ace the final exams in at least 2 of 4 of his classes, and that he would have to retake the other 2 regardless of how he did. Moreover, that he would lose a scholarship that paid a substantial amount of his tuition. He had to call his dad to tell him the bad news while I was on the top bunk of the bed studying, and his father is shouting so loud that I can hear him through John's phones with my earbuds in. Eventually, the question is asked if I had anything to do with John's bad grades, and before John can say anything, his dad determines that John was covering for me because I was a bad influence, and that since I was around him all the time, I was the reason he failed. He demanded to speak to me and wanted me to tell him everything I did to his son and how I corrupted him. And when John said that I didn't do anything, it only made him angrier. And after telling me that I would pay, he hung up. He already knew my name and of course where I lived, but I didn't think he would do anything with that information until I got a call from the university's Student Affairs Center telling me that John's father had requested access to my personal information through the student portal. Basically a website with financial aid and enrollment information, and to change my password in case I thought my data was at risk. I tell John that his dad tried to access my info, and of course he called his dad to ask him what the hell he was doing. Dad said that because John was failing, he was pulling John out of college, that he was coming for a few days to talk to me about my part in all of this. John asks him again to ask him why he asked this school for my information, and John's dad just hung up on him. I couldn't focus on that BS at the time since I had my own exams to prep for, but as he said he would, he showed up as this fairly skinny, balding guy desperately trying to cover up his receding hairline by brushing as much stringy blonde hair to the front of his head. I came down with the flu right before exams, so sadly I was forced to be in the room while John moved out, with his dad berating the both of us while I have my earbuds in and feel like I'm going to puke. John looks like he's going to cry because he doesn't want to leave, and I peek over my laptop to see his dad putting books and notes in the garbage and repeatedly asking John if he officially withdrew from the university, until John just barked yes at him. John's dad then turns to me and says something along the lines of, "Alright, now you." Again, I insist I didn't do anything to his son except live with him, and the dad demanded that because I turned his kid from an accomplished actor to a college dropout, I should withdraw from that university too. John is now yelling at his dad to leave me alone, and I'm telling him that there's no way I'm dropping out for his ego. He demands my laptop and portal login information, and I tell him that if he ever so much as touches my laptop or me, I'm calling the police. This escalates straight up into a shouting match among the three of us until the RA knocks on the door, warning us that if we don't quiet down, he will get campus security to come up and settle the issue. The dad quiets himself again and calmly asks me to withdraw because it's only fair. I say no because again I didn't do anything. There was a silence in the room. As he approaches the edge of my bunk, he's glaring at me. I'm putting my earbuds in because chemistry won't study itself, and he asks again, gripping the railing and almost hissing the question. I say no, again, didn't do crap. He finally decides that I'm not worth talking to anymore, and says that he'll tell my parents everything I did, and that they would make me leave college if he couldn't. And with that, he left with John. I got a text from my dad about a day later, and that both he and my mum basically told him and his wife to frick off and never contact me again, in far more eloquent terms. I then got a barrage of emails and texts and Facebook posts from the parents, pretty much saying that I was at fault for ruining their son's life, and that I don't deserve my seat at uni. So I blocked them. Every now and then, my parents would get Facebook messages or emails. They were ignored. John angrily reacted my graduation pics on Facebook a few months ago, so out of paranoia that they were spying on me through his account, I blocked him too. I hope he understands. What is John doing now? Coke. John is doing coke. And our next story is by user Adesmiaklozinski2. A Karen got mad at me and my dad for me trying to help her son. I'm Polish, and it took time roughly around 2007 or 8. Me too. I was in the local McDonald's in Walbrzych waiting for my order. Then in comes the entitled parent, a 30-something woman, obese, with a permanent look of passive aggression on her face, with 2 kids. One was, I think, 6 or 7, the EK, and the other was a teenager. She was clearly not used to ordering stuff in fast food places, because she said, "Chikche makadonalta kanapakokawego," which can only translate to English as, "I want a sandwich, McDonald." The man behind the counter asked which one, and she repeated with hearable annoyance that she wants a sandwich McDonald. The teenager asked for a hamburger. It was clear he was fed up with his mom. And then the entitled kid started crying. So I came up to them and said to the entitled kid that I can order something for him if he doesn't understand how to do it. And then it happened. The entitled parent grabbed me by my shirt, pulled me up, and with an enraged face, said that her kid is not going to eat anything because he's fat. The kid seemed average weight, to be honest. And then called me a pedophile. It would be understandable if I was a teen or an adult, but I was a kid too back then. She then grabbed her 2 kids and waddled out, barely getting through the door. I got sad. As a kid, I really hated being screamed at by people, and it always made me cry. So I go back outside to my dad, crying. He was talking to my mum through the phone and got really worried when he saw me crying. And then comes the entitled parent. Now she's waddling alone towards us, screaming, "You there!" at my dad. She called him the F word, was bumbling something about me bothering her kid, and even threatened him with a lawsuit. Looking back on it, it must have been comical to the onlookers, because she was smaller than my dad. He's a very tall guy, and 6 times as wide as him. And because of her size and the fact that she was getting redder and redder with anger, she looked like she was literally going to explode. Finally, my dad got fed up, did this kind of a fake movement towards her. She almost fell on her butt and started waddling towards the car, screaming she'll sue us both. Even as she was squeezing inside, and he only told her to pee off or else he'll call the police. She was so loud, one guy came over and asked if she was bothering us. My dad just said nah and laughed it off. God, I love my dad. He's so awesome. Okay, the entire time I'm reading this, I'm just imagining it's a stage play done by Polish penguins, and this is just a play where they're getting angry at each other and one's painted red, and the paint keeps getting redder and redder. It's like a fever dream. Anyway guys, that's the end of the episode. My Polish is admittedly not too good, and I have nothing else to say. I hope you guys have a grand, amazing, spectacular day, and I'll see you all in the next episode. Have a good one. Bye.